Here he is. Hello, mate.
Hello, mate. Oh.
What's happened to you now?
What episode are we on? 3? Is it just 3? Is that where we are?
Yeah, this will be for episode 3, yeah.
It's like we've done about 200 of these. We haven't, have we? We're only doing 3. Okay. Amazing. Yeah, I'm all right. I'm okay, thank you. A busy, full music-related week this week, just gone, actually.
Now, a word on the street is, Horace, that you, at the ripe old age of 50, the big 50, you went clubbing. Tell me everything.
I did go clubbing.
See, that's already funny.
It's not going to be as good a story as you're hoping. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, but I don't know. The thing is, what the listeners don't realise is that I have found you absolutely side-splittingly hilarious for over 30 years, ever since I've met you, because you are one of those characters but you walk in the room and I'm already laughing. You know that. So if you tell me that you went clubbing, I'll probably piss my pants.
Okay, well, I did go clubbing, and it's not... I haven't been clubbing for a long time. I think the last time I went clubbing, Maxi Jazz from Faithless was alive, and that was a fair old while back. I used to go clubbing a lot in the 90s when clubbing was, well, when it was a big event, and it used to start on a Thursday, clubbing in the 90s, and it used to end usually on a Tuesday, because you had the takeoff and the landing period of regular clubbing. You had to have 2 days to lead up to Saturday night, and then you had the Saturday night, and then you needed another day or so, or a couple of days to come down from the Saturday. It doesn't seem to be like that anymore. I think primarily that the clientele in the clubs doesn't have the same attitude that it had in the 90s. Because the only reason you went to a club in the 90s was to meet people and to dance. And
to take a copious amount of dubious substances. See,
I never did any of that.
No, you weren't part of the gurning crowd, were you?
No, I wasn't part of the gurning crowd. You know, I didn't put all that Colombian marching powder up my Uta when I was that age. I didn't do anything like that. I was very well behaved. And my purpose for clubbing...
Yeah, but the thing is, you didn't need to, because you basically you sniff half a lager and turn into a cretinous moron that does weird stuff when they urinate. So if you had partaken in any of those drugs, I would probably have had to emigrate if you had, to be fair.
Oh, God. That's going out into the... That's going out into the world. Amazing.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter, because anyone knows Roger the Horace knows that you get levered and urinate everywhere.
I don't care. I never did anything bad. Anything that I did involved my body and the lack of control that I had over it as the evening went on, pretty much.
But at least you never gurned, Horace.
I used to get excited when they used to play a song that I liked in a nightclub. That was enough.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If you heard a song you really liked, that was enough. Then you had to dance to it and mouth the words all correctly to impress all the women that were all sitting around watching you doing it. You know what I mean?
You just reminded me of something really hilarious. Like I went clubbing for quite a few years back in the day. You know, I know we're metalers, but you go clubbing, you do get into a bit of that sort of techno stuff after a while. And I've been going to this same club on Brighton seafront. It was called the Zap Club. I've been going there for years, and it was always all the coolest people, always up on the platforms. They used to dance on the platforms, and I used to think, how do they get up there? And then one time I was clubbing there, and this really fit girl was up there, and she spotted me in the crowd, obviously, because I'm 9'7", and when I dance, I look like a spastic giraffe on acid.
Yeah, you have to avoid the spotlights on the roof. Yeah, right.
This is it. Yeah, and she beckoned me up to one of the platforms.
Oh.
And I thought, mate, I've landed. This is it. This is my moment. But I bottled it. I didn't go up on the platform.
Oh, no.
I couldn't do it. Yeah. Never did it.
What a shame.
So did you do it when you went clubbing the other day? Were you up on the platform with your top off, giving it a big one, swinging it over your toppy red?
I didn't have my top off the other day, because if I'd had my top off, just like you just said, things would have been swinging, and that wouldn't have been very nice. I think I'd have looked like a couple of helicopters facing sideways. It wouldn't have been the best.
That's a sight, that is.
Yeah.
Horace does Right Said Fred at the club.
There definitely wasn't any like tassels needed or anything like that. I was.
Why did you go clubbing anyway? Oh, was it your wife's birthday?
I went to see some people that wanted to do that, some youngsters and everything else. It wasn't.
It was. Yeah.
It's not for me anymore. It is what it is. It's definitely not for me anymore.
Okay. So you went clubbing. It was a bit rubbish. Then you came home. Was that it?
Yeah.
we built that story up, didn't we?
I'm afraid that is it, mate. I have done a couple of things over the last 2 weeks, which is that I've got a bit of a thick ear. I don't know where that's come from.
What have you done?
I was adjusting my glasses the other day, and I don't know if you ever adjust your glasses by putting your finger on top of your ear, but I put my finger on top of my ear to do that, and it didn't feel the same shape that it normally feels. And I thought, well, that's weird. I know.
What have you been doing this week, Roy? I've been examining the shape of my ears. Yeah.
It doesn't need to be discussed at any great length, really. I don't feel, but I have got a cauliflower ear, and I don't know how I've got it. So either somebody has punched me in the ear at some point that I didn't realise, or when I was asleep. Could have been my wife when I was asleep, potentially, I suppose. But she says she didn't do it. But I've got a cauliflower ear.
I don't think we have to be Sherlock Holmes to figure it out, though, do we, Horace? You went clubbing and probably drank about 14 bottles of champagne and urinated on someone's shoes, and they smashed you around the side of the head with their handbag, didn't they?
Well,
that's why you've got a cauliflower ear.
I got it from somewhere, so I've got a cauliflower ear. Somebody's elbowed me in the head or something. But I don't remember waking up with a headache or anything like that, so it's very strange. But I've got a cauliflower ear. It's like a big cartoon. It's ridiculous.
I know one thing's for sure. I bet that club reeked of rich egg by the time you'd left the vicinity. Welcome to Backstage Pass, a podcast which attempts to pull back the curtain on the music industry with banter, comedy, and essentially two blokes having a laugh. With myself, James Maverick, and my good friend, Rob Newson, otherwise known as Roger the Horace.
So I just wanted to give a little shout out this week to somebody that I did run into, which is my friend, the photographer Marianne Harris, who bought her little Down for Life music tour through my town. So I got to see 3 of her young bands, Crushed by Waves, When We Were Wolves, and Within Reach, who were ridiculous. I saw that this week. And if anyone wants to check her website out, she promotes a lot of young bands. She's a really nice lady, and she's not had a good time this year. And it's Down for Life Music is her little company.
Good one, mate.
And this week I also went to the O2 to see Liam Gallagher do the Oasis thing.
Why are you obsessed with what? You've always been a fan of Liam Gallagher. I don't get it.
Oh, I like Oasis, yeah. Big 90s Britpop fan. Grew up in it, mate. Still love it. They're great songs. I know they ripped off loads of other bands. Who cares? The beauty about that era of the 90s, it was about just everyone hanging out together, the camaraderie more than it was anything else. And
yeah,
he plays, for those of people that do know about Oasis, Liam was playing the whole of the first Oasis album, definitely maybe from start to finish, as well as some B-sides of around that area. The whole O2 sang all of it, which was actually really cool, because I've never been to a gig before where the whole O2 has sung the whole show.
I don't think I've experienced that either.
You don't think that until you're actually there, but everyone knows all the words to the whole of the album, pretty much. And when they got to Cigarettes and Alcohol, which is about halfway through the album, everyone that had a full pint threw it at the stage. So it was just like being back in the 90s, because that's what people used to do in the 90s when beer wasn't £16.80 a pint like it is at the O2. But everyone just didn't worry about that. And if anyone had a glass that was full of anything when they started that song, everyone slung it towards the stage. And the poor old guy at the sound desk that was in the middle of the crowd got absolutely soaked. I don't think he was planning on that happening. But that was a very, very nice reminder of how the 90s used to be when people used to throw their beer.
Yeah.
I have seen a few interviews with Noel, and Liam's obviously, he's just hilarious because he's like Noel did quote about him once in an interview, which I thought was hilarious, which he did say that Liam Gallagher's a man, what was it? A man with a fork in a world full of soup, which I thought was actually really good. Yeah.
Outrageous.
It was all to do with a champagne bottle, wasn't it? Because Noel went round and his house apparently, he went round Noel's house when they were talking, allegedly, and Noel had a fork in a bottle of champagne. You know, like some people put forks in champagne, don't they, to keep it fresh. It's a thing. It does work.
It's a thing, yeah.
And then he went round Liam's a couple of months later, and he had a fork in a pint of milk.
Oh man, if this gets out, mate.
That was really. I thought that was really good. He does talk about him a lot in his interviews.
They've got to do some sort of reunion, haven't they?
Well, they need to hurry up, because if they want to do it, they got to do it, haven't they?
Well, what are they? They've got to be in their late 50s, haven't they? Those two now.
Yeah, I think he's. Yeah, they are. Yeah, I think they are.
It will be very interesting, won't it, looking into the future to see if that elusive Oasis reunion does ever see the light of day, won't it? We were talking on the last episode about all the nice feedback we've had, weren't we? We both had, we were both inundated with messages, basically, weren't we?
Yeah.
But interestingly, I've had one message from some dude via Twitter, or X as it's known now. And the funny thing is about Twitter, I don't even know I don't even know the name of this person. I don't know if it's a male or female, who the hell they are, because their handle on Twitter is Rancid Ring Flash 69. I mean, of all the names that you could call yourself, could it get more derogatory than Rancid Ring Flash 69? It sounds like whoever this person is, they've got a serious issue with their undercarriage.
Right.
Oh, but maybe I shouldn't be too harsh. Whoever the hell this person is, they actually sent me a message, and it was really nice. And it said, I was actually at the Downset show that you spoke about in the last episode at the Camden Underworld back in the day, and you played an awesome set, and in my opinion, were the best band on the night, which is very nice. And Rancid Ring Flash 69 has said, what other bands did you share a stage with during your time?
Oh, golly.
But what I was thinking was that it's a really good question, and it might be a nice little segue into actually talking more about the Brighton scene, all the bands in the south that made up that scene, because we've had so many messages from those dudes that were in those bands and made part of that scene.
Yeah.
It might be nice to talk about all that stuff.
Yeah, it might be. I remember the old back in the making flyers on photocopier days. I think if you remember that, we used to make flyers on photocopiers and cut them up with scissors.
I remember those days well. I worked in this. I had this grotty little office job. It was rubbish pay, but it was quite good because they let you take quite a lot of time off work so we could go on tour. So it was pretty handy. And back in the day, my first band, I managed our first band pretty much. And there's this funny little office down in the basement where I used to work. It was really weird. There was sort of nothing in it, but there was a landline and a telephone in it. So in my lunch breaks and my breaks, I used to get the lift down to the basement to this funny little office. Basically managed the band from that funny little room. No internet, pre-internet, hilarious. Just a notebook and a landline, and we managed. It's amazing to think that ever happened, really.
My memory's not brilliant, but I'm sure once we start going, I'll remember half of it.
Well, I've got a little list here. I went down a trip down memory lane.
Right.
Wow, yeah, I went for it. I've got, obviously, Matter and Landmine Spring.
Yep.
Little Ten.
Yep. They
were a band from my hometown down here. And I still see the guitarist from Little Ten, Mr. Giles Paley Phillips, who's just up the road. And what a jolly nice man he is. And He's in a band now called Burnt House. So if anyone's interested,
Okay.
go and check out Burnt House. They're on available to stream nowadays. And Giles he's a published author nowadays, and he's a bit of a legend in the old podcasting world. And he has a podcast called Unquestionable, which is jolly good, and you should go and check that out.
Oh, right. Wasn't he the singer? Was he definitely the guitarist?
Yeah, Giles was the guitarist. The singer was Joe Payne was the singer.
Joe, that's it. Okay, yeah, I remember. Blonde-haired kiddie, yeah.
I got some news on that front, actually. So I randomly got an email from the very same Joseph Payne recently. I don't think I've seen Joe for about 20 years, and we always used to get on really well. And funnily enough, he was the vocalist in my very first band when I was about 17 years old. I was in a band called Innocent X, and Joe was the singer. And and then I let him know about the podcast, and he listened to the first 2 episodes, and then we sort of got talking on email, and then we ended up jumping on Zoom the other night and had a chat, and a catch up. And we were chatting for about 3 hours. It was absolutely epic. He's doing really well, and it was brilliant to see him. And we're back in contact. So that's made me super happy about that. And he introduced me to some more music that he made after his days in Little Ten, a band called Monday from Nowhere, which is on Spotify. So if anyone wants to check that out, who may have been a fan of the band Little Ten, go and have a listen, because Joe's vocal talents are all over that. It's really good stuff. It's sort of Pearl Jam vibes. Really cool. So it's been brilliant to get back in contact with Joe, and shout out to you, Joe, if you're tuning in. Awesome stuff.
Yeah, I remember them.
Do you remember the band Fat by Accident? Remember them?
I do remember Fat by Accident, yeah. Yeah, well, I remember about it. I think, if I remember rightly, Fat by Accident was, they changed into My Def Audio, didn't they, if I remember rightly?
Yeah, they did morph into a band called My Def Audio.
And I've got a feeling that that the bass player in that band sadly passed away. I think, if I remember rightly, and I'm sure Rich was the bass player in that band. And he was
Did he have really long hair?
He used to have a beanie on quite a lot of the time. So I think he had long hair, but it was underneath his beanie. He used to have a hat on quite a lot of the time. And he was quite a respected and revered character on the Brighton scene as years went by, because obviously I've moved to Reading, so I don't live in Brighton anymore, but I do hear about it from various people. And he sadly passed away, Rich did, so that's really sad. But
that is sad.
Fat by Accident was Lofty, wasn't it?
He was called Lofty because he was really short.
Yeah, he was, yeah. Like Warwick Davis. Yeah, maybe not, actually.
He wasn't that short.
He wasn't that short, was he? Lofty was nice guy.
Yeah, Lofty was a nice dude, wasn't he? And there was the Hounds at Imprint.
The old Casket, because I think we all signed to Casket, didn't we? So to start with, yeah, if you remember, that was Jose's label that he did alongside Copro.
Right. I was never involved in Casket, but I was surrounded by bands that were. Yeah.
Yeah, we all got deals when we were recording our records, I think, when we were in the studios, if I remember rightly, and hiding with girls. Hang on a minute, what am I talking about? Imprint, it was before, well, they were Snuffy before they were Imprint, because that's where they first started, wasn't it?
I think that was a different band, though.
Oh.
Well, I didn't really know them then. I got to know Tris and Leander, specifically from Imprint, and then they ended up a band called Hiding with Girls.
That's right.
Who did well, and I still see those Hounds today. So that's really nice to remember that.
Yep. And then they changed into District right at the very end, I think, if I remember. And they did a really good album, a District album.
They did.
That they recorded down the road from here in Reading.
Yeah.
With old Mr. Mitchell.
That's right.
Yeah, that was a really good album.
I think it was the best thing they ever did, that District record. That was really good. What about the Uckfield Massive?
Oh, yeah, the Uckfield Massive, yeah. Caution.
They were on Casket as well, weren't they?
The old baked bean harmonies, as we used to call it, when we that's, I don't know why it got called that. Oh, no, I know why it got called that.
Baked bean harmonies? What are you on about? I've never heard that.
Well, when we first went to Philia with
Philia Studios,
Chipstick Chang,
yeah,
who's called Chipstick because of the crisps that he used to eat. He used to eat salt and vinegar chipsticks all the time. That's why it was called Chipstick Chang. Yeah.
So for anyone that's curious, and just to be clear, we are in fact referring to Dave Chang, who was one of a few go-to metal engineers back in the day, who worked out of Philia Studios in Oxfordshire, and he made a lot of good metal records.
But he was a very particular man, wasn't he? And he was...
That's right, yeah, so just talk like this, yes.
He always had his ham sandwiches, Evian, and his salt and vinegar chipsticks, staple diet.
The thing is, he probably need all that junk food to get through the day, putting up with us fucking bellends in his studio, doing his head in every flipping 5 minutes.
He hated us so much. I think he hated everyone.
No, he didn't.
He did. Everyone he worked with, he used to get to the end of a song, he'd spend like 4 days mixing it, and then he'd play it for everyone, and we'd all go, we don't like that. Can you change this, and this, and this, and this, and this? And he would go, I'm not changing anything, it's finished. And we'd be like, well...
It's fine, it's finished.
It's not fine, we don't like that.
But Dave, my drum kit fell over during that take.
It's fine, it's finished, we can move on.
But Dave, I've just had a stroke during that vocal take.
It's fine, it's done, we can move on.
Yeah, but it's funny because I don't know, sort of mixed feelings about Chipstick Chang. He was a jolly nice bloke. He was older than us lot, and he spent his whole life dealing with bell-end Herberts.
Yeah.
But now that I'm an audio engineer, I look back at what he dealt with. He had one outboard compressor, one outboard EQ, a really early version of Pro Tools. So how he got to the end of and produced anything, I really don't know. But looking back, the digital revolution hadn't happened yet. And I think probably if I was making a record with a band with the setup that he had, maybe I'd have similar results. I really don't know, without digital. And obviously the budget we're working with was pretty shit. So he could only afford to give us the time that he was paid for. It'd be interesting to have a chat with him about that one day, wouldn't it? Because so all I'm saying is, in retrospect, I think he did all right, bearing in mind with all things considered and how annoying we must have been. I think he probably did all right.
And when we were looking back at a few old things recently, we did ask, didn't we, where his ADAT machine had gone, and somebody said it was in a shed somewhere, all covered in Marmite and unusable anymore. So if you want to get music off of old formats, you've had it, basically, because the machines aren't there.
Well, a couple of years ago, you and I were going to try and do a sort of anniversary release and a vinyl run of Are We the Culprits, the last Landmine Spring record, but we couldn't get...
if no one's interested, I'm sure, but we had to send it all off to some bloke at the BBC who had the machine, who probably had to start the machine up about six weeks before he wanted to use it. And then bake the ADATs in an oven for 2 days before he played them, and then he did extract all the data, and then when you got it back, it said it was horrendous. So it's like, well, that's it.
Well, we did manage to extract some sort of raw data from the ADATs, but it didn't lend itself very well in the language that it was ripped from for a modern digital audio workstation to run with it very well. So yeah, it was kind of a dead rubber, really, which was a shame.
Never mind. Let's move on from that. Where were we at? I was talking about baked bean harmonies, wasn't I? That's where I was going with that.
Yeah. Well, what's all that about?
So when we first went to Philia Studios, which I remember the walls were lavishly graced with Axminster because somebody had put carpet all around the inside of it, hadn't they? Remember? When you used to have to open the door at the front was so heavy that you needed to use like both your arms to open it. You remember?
Well, both your arms and then someone to pull you as you pulled the door to open the damn thing. Yeah.
The first time we went to Philia, we were played what had been previously recorded there, and one of the albums that was previously recorded there was Caution's album, which we'd heard of them, but we hadn't actually heard or seen anything to do with any sort of production and anything else. And they had a lot of really good vocal melodies on their first record. I can't remember what it's called now. I can see the cover. It's black with a police crime tape across the front of it.
I can't remember either. Well, it was a long time ago, but yeah.
But I remember hearing it, and Dave, he had the tracks, so he just played us the vocals. And it was really good. The melodies on it were absolutely brilliant. And it's the first time I'd ever heard double track vocals and double track melodies.
But why baked beans?
Because of the TV advert at the time, which was Ladysmith Black Man Barzo, that band that played with Paul Simon on Graceland, did a baked bean advert on the television. And there's a load, it's all vocals.
Oh, is that?
I think that's where that come from.
I thought you meant it was baked bean harmonies. It was a load of old shit.
No.
But yeah, their harmonies are always really good.
David obviously made them do it over and over and over again until it was spot on, and it was really good. But I'm sure baked bean harmonies comes from, there was definitely an advert in the 90s on the TV of Ladysmith Black Man Barzo advertising baked beans. And they were the ones that sang on Homeless, Homeless. That'll get us in trouble with the MCPS, I expect. That was from Graceland by Paul Simon, which I think everyone's heard that record.
Yeah, well, I've heard it, and I thought it was shit. I mean, in all fairness, I know it's a well-loved record and much revered. But the reason I hate it is because when I was at secondary school, we had this really strange music supply teacher that came in for a little while, and for about 6 weeks, every pissing lesson, we were forced to listen to that. So that put me off for good, really. Anyway, enough about that. The Uckfield Massive, known as Caution back in the day, mate. Danny Polo, lead vocals and pork and leek sausages. Tom Diamond Cottage, otherwise known as Dr. Feg, on guitar and backing vocals. And Harry Bass McHenderson on the bass and crab sticks. What a bunch of hilarious legends they are. And then, when Bobby Dazzler left Landmine Spring, he joined them, and then Caution became the Hurt Process.
That's right.
And a shout out to the Hurt Process, because they're still doing it. They disappeared like all the bands did. We all went off to get married and have kids, and then in recent years, the Hurt Process have come back to do some Reformation shows, and they've done a few gigs last year and this year. So fair play to them. And
yeah, they're having another go.
Yeah, and there's another band on my list here, Killing Mode. Do you remember Killing Mode?
Yes, I do, yeah.
Mate.
I remember Killing Mode. They're probably still going.
Well, maybe they are. Old Halbert Hebling and his Un, dos, tres, vale, todo. Come on. He was loving it. He was Max. He had sort of Max Cavalera's soul, didn't he, in him?
Yeah.
He was good fun.
He's still doing it, mate. 10 Plagues. That's his band.
Cool.
And he wears a mask. He wears like a Slipknot mask.
And our mutual friend Alex Cummins on drums. What a great drummer he was, and a jolly nice bloke. And I hope he's doing well. I
think he's in somewhere like Bermuda, probably laying on a beach with a great big tequila sunrise in his hand, going. I imagine, yeah. Shout out to Alex. He's probably listening. It's the sort of thing he would listen to.
Mm. He's an established lighting engineer now, isn't he? And he tours with bands and does all their lighting for them.
I think he does, but I think he might have just decided to jack that in now. I think now he's going to be a full-time international playboy, and he's just swanned off somewhere abroad, and he's probably sitting in Ibiza with his toes hanging in an ocean or something, like having the time of his life, mate. Not sitting here in this country with a great big long face moaning. he never did that. He never did that.
No, he didn't.
No.
He's a jolly nice chap and a really, really good drummer. So Hope he's doing well. Shout out to you, Alex.
Yeah.
And of course, one of the guitarists in Killing Mode was Thick Mop and the Pretenders from eventually who joined Landmine Spring.
Yeah.
But back then, I've got to tell this story. Back then, he had a different nickname. And I'll tell you what, I went with Shitlegs on the train one day to Brighton to see Killing Mode play the King and Queen. Because I think we were friends of you then, and you'd mentioned about Killing Mode, and me and Shitlegs were at a loose end one night, and we went to see Killing Mode at the King and Queen, and Marcus couldn't stop laughing while we were watching. And I eventually, because it was obviously really loud, and I pulled him aside and got to the bar, and we ordered another drink, and I said, "What are you laughing at?" And he said, "Mate, that guitarist, he won't stop banging his head, and it's reminded me of a fucking nodding dog." Do you remember those nodding dogs in the 80s? You used to find them in the back of cars, like a Ford Capri or whatever. He'd be driving on the motorway, and his nodding dog would be just nodding its head like that. That's what Nev, with his thick mop, he was a really good rhythm guitar player, though, wasn't he? He had his Flying V. You couldn't knock his guitar playing. He was really, really top. But he used to headbang continuously when he was in Killing Mode, and he did actually look rather reminiscent of a nodding dog. And I had to mention that because it was hilarious. And when Shitlegs used to laugh about something, he couldn't stop. That was really funny, that.
Brilliant.
So there you go. Thick Mop and the Pretenders used to be called the Nodding Dog. So there you go.
I wonder if people are familiar with the nickname Thick Mop and the Pretenders. It's quite a lot, isn't it, for a nickname?
Yeah. We're going to have to delve into...
I don't know where the Pretenders part came from, but anyway.
But we'll probably have to delve into how all these nicknames came about one day, because there's a story behind all of them, and they're all hilarious.
Yeah, that's a whole hour and a half's worth of nonsense, isn't it?
It probably is, yeah.
To do all of that, yeah.
Next on my list is, I mentioned the vocalist from this band earlier, Ollie. is Johnny Truant. We had a lot of fun with Johnny Truant. They were good lads, weren't they?
They were good lads. They recorded their very first. They were used to be called
Severance.
Severance, that's right.
Yeah.
And they did a demo. I've still got it, actually. They did a demo. We're in somewhere like, they went to somewhere like Southampton to do it, and I drove them there to do it, I remember. And they used all our equipment to do it, their first demo. I'm sure they did, other than guitars and whatnot. Well, they were really good. And
They were.
I remember the Hunters were really good at their instruments, weren't they? And then you got old Jackson, Paul Jackson on drums. He was a brilliant player.
Yeah, so Ollie's in LA these days. He works for a record label. I'm sure he won't mind me giving him a shout out. It was really nice to hear from him. He sent us a nice message after episode 1. And the drummer, Paul Jackson, he's an internationally well-known surreal mixed media artist these days.
All right.
He's established himself. I think he's over in Canada. And if anyone's interested in checking out his art, his handle on social media is Paul Jackson Lives. And you should check out his artwork because it's extraordinary. He did this one bit of art that I can't stop looking at. He did this sort of surreal take on Jaws, where Quint is sitting inside Jaws, and because obviously Quint is the fisherman that gets eaten at the end, and he's inside the belly of the shark, and the shark's mechanical, and Quint's piloting it, and it's sort of like a dissected view of the shark. It's absolutely brilliant.
I think I've seen that.
It's really, really cool. He does a lot of stuff like that. So shout out to him.
Yeah, he's got a fantastic website.
So he obviously wasn't content with being a really good drummer. He also apparently is a complete genius with a pen. I mean, it's just fucking outrageous, isn't it? But fair play to him. And very, very occasionally, I still see the bass player James. So shout out to James. I hope he's doing well. And he's still rocking it. He's in a band with his brother Stuart, and they're in a band called Anacondas, who are jolly good and make a nice big racket. I think they're still going.
I think that might be over, mate.
Well, maybe it is
that anymore. I could be wrong about that, but yeah, they definitely were in a band called Anacondas. So I used to play in the Albert all the time, our old stomping ground, the Prince Albert.
Yeah, it's awesome. Do you remember the Iron Monkey show at the Albert?
Yes, I do. I was at that show. I remember that Iron Monkey show. It's probably legally best if we don't mention that, I imagine. It got out of hand, let's just say, and
didn't Johnny Morrow throw a wedge monitor at somebody or something? It all got a bit hilarious.
Yes, I think that did happen. Luckily I'd left by that point. I could tell there was something not right in the air in that venue in that night.
It wasn't your rich egg arse, was it?
And I remember Iron Monkey weren't really for me at the time. They were a bit of a handful. But that was the whole point of the band. I think really they liked being a handful wherever they were.
Yeah.
And after I think about 2 songs, I'd had enough of that. So I went off to meet my friends somewhere else. And then the aftermath of that was that they basically trashed the venue. But they liked trashing venues, I think. Iron Monkey did. That was the whole point of Iron Monkey.
You said that so matter-of-factly as if that was just something that they did.
Well, they wanted everyone to be scared of them, didn't they, when they turned up? So that was the kind of the thing that they used to do. Are they going to trash the venue? Yes, they probably will. So promoters were living in fear of booking them because they would always turn up, and then if they didn't smash the venue up, people used to get disappointed. So it's like, well, they are going to smash the venue.
I paid for a bloody ticket here to see you smash the place up, and you're all polite and fucked off. I'm not having that.
Yeah, that's it. Somebody got into a lot of hot water for that show, but anyway,
their reputation did precede them, didn't it?
We'll leave that there. We can talk about that another time. But it wasn't very wasn't much fun for some people that night.
So we briefly mentioned Philia Studios. We should probably talk about Philia Studios because that was kind of a mainstay studio that all of us Brighton lot ended up going to at one point or another.
Yeah.
Because if you're in a band starting out on a budget, that ended up being the place to go. And I'll never forget old Jose Griffin, because Philia Studios, for those that aren't aware, was a soundproof big old wooden outhouse, a proper kitted out studio. It was really good, but it was in his back. He had this big long back garden. So poor Jose Griffin, who owned Casket and Cop Pro Records, he used to do all the recordings in his back garden. He wasn't the engineer, but my God, he must have had so many weird Herberts turning up at his house because he was in a residential area as well, wasn't it, where he lived?
Yeah.
And it's just a funny story about him that I'll never forget. So I ended up recording both the Matter album and the album with you, with Landmine Spring, at Phileas Studios. And I shit you not, again, it's in my diary that I found recently. When we fetched up, Jose came trudging down the path down to the studio in his funny sandals and a curry-stained Sabbath T-shirt. It looked like curry anyway. So that was funny in itself. He didn't seem aware that he had this big splodge of what looked like curry down his T-shirt. But then a few years later, when I came back to record On With The Culprits with you guys at Landmine Spring, he came trudging down the path with the same shoddy sandals on, the same Sabbath T-shirt, but this time he had yoghurt down the front. So talk about coming back to some familiarity. That was well, I presume it was yoghurt.
Oh. Well, good. Yoghurt.
That's really tickled me, that has. Some people are so funny. They're so fucking shoddy. They're like, I've spilled half a fucking dinner and my dessert down my shirt. I don't give a shit. I'll wear it again the next day. My house, my studio, my rules. I work hard, play hard.
I saw him a little while ago.
He's a jolly nice bloke, Jose. Yeah. He was great.
I saw him he acquired a big load of 80s 7-inch records.
Oh.
And he sent me a nice email saying he'd acquired all these 7-inch records. Did I want to go over and see if I wanted to add any of them to my collection? So I went.
Well, you were probably round there before he finished the sentence, weren't you?
Well,
is Jose still running a label these days, do you know? Or is that all?
Jose's, as far as I know, is still doing his JMG agency. So he's still doing a, like a live music agency thing, booking shows for bands, I guess.
Excellent.
There's not as much demand for physical product for new bands these days. So I imagine it's probably digital and streaming and whatnot. He's probably gone into that, I expect.
Brilliant. That's really cool. Well, shout out to him because he was always a jolly nice bloke, despite the amount of meals that he ended up falling down his favourite Sabbath T-shirt.
Well, we weren't allowed to go in the house, were we? That was off limits.
Well, I'm not surprised. The cretinous Herberts he had.
He didn't let us in the house. We didn't have a backstage pass to go into the house. We had to go into the shed. We had Sonic the Hedgehog and we had a Sega Mega Drive, one game.
He did. It stopped us getting bored when all the other band members were recording their parts. I'll never forget this. I had the Distress Crow from Matter, old Dom. He was absolutely wetting himself one day because I was so bored. I started playing the golf game on that Sega Mega Drive, and out of sheer boredom, I changed everyone's name who'd logged into the machine on the leaderboard. I named them Chris Cack and Sam Crapper, right? Just for a laugh. And innocently, Dom had a few beers. I put the controller down to go and do some backing vocals, whatever. And when I came back, he was there and he picked up the controller to play some golf. And he went, who's put my name in as Sam Crapper? I don't know why that's so funny, but shortly after that, he used to call me Sim Quiddy, which always used to make me laugh. Some of the stupid shit you do when you're bored in a band. Seriously.
I don't even remember. I'm in the golf game. We only had Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm sure that's all we had.
Yeah, there was a golf game there. I think there was a Nintendo there. Maybe Jose had upped his game. Yeah,
yeah.
Maybe he got a new T-shirt as well. That'd have been cool.
Giving it a rinse.
So, Horace, this week I sent you a fantastic album of one of my favourite modern metal bands.
Yeah.
It's an American band called Error, spelled E-R-R-A, and their new album came out last month, and it's called Cure. Now, Error, I think, are basically one of a handful of modern metal bands who are right on top of their game at the moment. They've done a few albums now. It's that sort of low-tuned guitars, big modern production. It's really melodic as well. It's very technical. They're really good musicians and they write catchy metal songs. It's a really strong record, and the album was produced by one of my favourite metal producers, Dan Braunstein, who also did Spirit Box, amongst others. So it ticks all my boxes, basically, and what I appreciate and enjoy in a modern metal record. So I'm just going to read the wiki on them. So Error is an American progressive metalcore band from Birmingham, Alabama, formed in 2009. The band was named after the homonymous Akkadian god of war and plague, and the band has released 6 studio albums and 3 EPs to date. Their latest album, titled Cure, was released on April 5th, 2024, and they've basically toured with everybody. And although I respect your opinion, Horace, I think it's fair to say you can be quite dismissive at times. So I'm hoping on this occasion that you'll find something to like about this record, because I'm quite passionate about this album, and I think it's great. So I guess without further ado, it's now time for
Roger the Horace's album review.
So my only question to you really, Horace, is what did you make of it?
Well, if you put a couple of breeze blocks into a tumble dryer and switched it onto a high setting, I'm pretty sure that's what it would sound like.
Yeah, bye! Whatever. So I suppose we should, talking of the memories that we have, and we were talking about all these good souls that have contacted us about the show. So this is interesting. So I had a message from my good friend Tris, from the ex-guitarist of Hiding with Girls. He's a lovely bloke. He's really funny, Tris, and he's quite an interesting character, because whenever I bump into him, we sort of meet up a few times a year, and whenever I see him, he's got an extraordinary memory, Tris has, and invariably when I meet up with him, he'll remind me of some hilarious story that I've forgotten completely about, that he'll remind me about. But interestingly, he's written us a message here. So that ties in very nicely to our brand new feature on episode 3 called Ask Horace.
Oh, God.
He's a lemon, ask Horace.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant jingle. Sorry, yeah, great. I didn't know that was coming. Yeah, amazing. Yeah, very good. Very good. Well done.
Thought you'd enjoy that. Yeah, this is quite interesting because Tris has a memory back from 1998. So I hadn't even met you or Tris by then.
Yeah.
But he said he's got an old VHS tape of a battle of the bands at Brighton Technical College featuring your first band, Pin. And he said it's hilarious because the lyrics to one of the song's choruses goes, yeah, 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 with the lyric, what have you got against me? And he said, it's also doubly hilarious because throughout the entire performance, you, Roger the Horace, are wearing a fisherman's hat.
Sorry.
And his question is, do you remember it? What do you remember of that?
Yes, I do remember it. I didn't have a fisherman's hat. What?
Well, he's got evidence on a VHS
yeah, it
tape,
wasn't a
mate.
fisherman's hat. We were, that was Pin. That was when I was in a band with 2 people that were rather partial to recreational drugs, and 2 people that weren't, and that was never really going to work out. That was like oil and water.
Was Bobby Dazzler the drummer of Pin?
No, he wasn't the drummer of Pin, no. Dave Sandon, who I saw a little while ago, shout out to Dave. I don't think he's going to ever listen to this, but he might do. He's a lovely guy. He lives in Brighton. He lives in Hove, even. Sorry, near Brighton. He was the original drummer in Pin, and then I don't know what happened towards the end, but I'm pretty sure my brother took over from him on drums.
Tris said he thinks it's your brother on the video, and he's got metal drumsticks.
I think it. He hasn't. No, he did. Do you know what? Now you say that, somebody did have metal drumsticks at one point, but I don't think it was my brother.
My brother.
But he used to play drums in another band called Leap of Faith, and then he was in a metal band called Broken Nine, and then who I've just looked at on a thing, and then I think he played that show. But what happened was our bass player had left. He was called Grog, and he was a partaker of rather a lot of drugs, and so was our guitarist.
Which one pawned his guitar for a bag of wag?
That was Sean. So he was a guitarist. So yeah, he was partial to a lot of a lot of drugs that he shouldn't be taking. But I didn't know this. You don't know this at the time. It's quite easy to keep this all covered up. Anyway,
Tony.
Our bass player at the time was a guy called Ollie, who somebody had recommended to us, who was at college, at that particular college, and he told them that he was in a band and they wanted us wondered if we would be interested in doing the Battle of the Bands competition. So we did the Battle of the Bands competition, and if I remember correctly, Snuffy were in that competition as well. That's why Tris would have been either there or someone would have been videoing it, because the precursor band to Imprint and his band and everything else was Snuffy, and Snuffy were playing in that Battle of the Bands as well.
So who won the Battle of the Bands?
Ice 9 was the name of the band that won, and they won a day recording in a recording studio, which back then was like winning the lottery.
Yeah, it bloody was.
So they won a proper recording day, and then there was a video. It was all to do with local TV. It was just when local TV had started to become a thing. Remember, people were getting franchises to put things onto channels on cable telly and stuff. Like there was a local cable TV station, and I think it was on there. And of course, if you were going to be on a local TV station, it was like, it's like being on national television. So we were on there, and we didn't win, but we were second, I think. I honestly can't remember, but I remember I think we were second and we didn't win, despite us having a good portion of the fan base. And we didn't win. So on the way out of the venue, I smashed up the lobby.
What do you mean?
I think I just pulled some display thing over in the lobby because we were adamant we were going to win, and I thought it'd be quite rock and roll to smash up the lobby of the college. It was in a college somewhere. It was in Brighton College. It was in the one down by London Road, somewhere like that.
Diva Horace in the house.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
A bit like smashing up the drum kit in the High Wycombe White Horse. I thought it'd be quite a good idea. Well, it's rock and roll to smash things up, isn't it? So I thought it'd be a good idea to smash up the lobby of the school. And yeah, I definitely remember it, but I don't remember the lyrics going, yeah. Why are you against me or something?
Well, maybe we could get hold of the VHS and have a look. I would love to see that. You giving it large, going yeah, and a fucking fisherman's hat.
I think my mum's got it as well. So I'm pretty sure there's only a couple of little clips of me on it, and I'm
brilliant.
It was back in the days of the wallet chains and the enormous trousers. You remember?
Oh my god! And you were a bit of a big old puppy back in the day, so I imagine your trousers were fucking. You could probably fit a family of 4 in your enormous trousers.
They were, and if I jumped into the air, I used to take quite a long time to come down because of the voluminousness of my trousers.
Oh, that's hilarious.
They were enormous. The bigger the trousers you had, the cooler you were. Do you not remember how that was a thing? It was like the bigger your trousers were. If your trousers were literally, thing is, the bigger they were, the more they dragged in the mud and the puddles on the floor. So they used to get all filthy around the bottoms.
Yeah.
But I remember when my big trousers were dry and I could wear them out on a Friday night and wear them down the metal club, and my trousers were amazing. And you used to pull them down over the top of your backside, didn't you? And have the belt round your groin rather than have it round your midriff.
Well, I remember bumping into you in the Hungry Ears a couple of times before we knew each other, and your fucking trousers had their own gravitational system, mate. They're unbelievable.
Yeah, they definitely did. Yeah, I don't know how they were held up, but yeah, they were. And I had everyone had a wallet chain.
Yeah,
and they're coming back apparently.
Well, I wear one, but that's only because I'm such a forgetful twat. I just leave my wallet everywhere if I didn't.
Well, they were good till you got till you like caught it on something, because you know, if you caught it on like the top of a banister was always my favourite one. If it sort of swung up onto the top of a banister and you went down the stairs, you
end up swinging from the rafters for a couple of minutes.
Basically, nearly pull your own leg off, like by this, or at least pull the loops off of your trousers. Do you remember?
Well, it is a bit rubbish. I've got quite a big chunky chain in my wallet because I always used to lose my flipping wallet.
Yeah.
And I went out to meet a friend for coffee recently, and I was sitting on a bench that had quite wide slats in it, and this chunky chain that I've got. And I sat down and I got up to go to the toilet. I got up to go to the toilet and my fucking trousers stayed on the bench. It's really awkward. I went, and sort of went, I sort of swooned backwards and then realised that my chain was firmly stuck in between the slats on the bench, which was highly embarrassing. And much to the amusement of my friend, who nearly died laughing. Yeah.
I definitely had a wallet chain on in that video of that gig. 100% had a wallet chain on.
Tris chimed in and messaged in with that memory because he thinks it might. Well, very rightly, he says it might be quite a poignant moment in the sort of Brighton scene, because of course the vocalist that was in Imprint and Hiding with Girls, Leander, our mutual friend Leander, was the the guitarist in Snuffy, and that apparently is the first time him and Tris met you and Bobby Dazzler. So there was a seed planted there of the Brighton scene, you see.
I remember Darren being there, but I don't think he was playing in a band at the time, as in playing at the show. But I remember, again, our memory is fuzzy, but I'm pretty sure that Leander had the head from Korn hairstyle, where he had his hair put into like about 46 ponytails with elastic bands.
He definitely had that haircut. And also had enormous trousers.
Yeah, he did have enormous trousers, but that was the uniform for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I remember Darren meeting him there, and I think that's where they started there, because they started a band together first of all, and I'm pretty sure that's where they first started to say they were going to do a band.
Lungbrush.
That's it, Lungbrush, that's it, yeah.
That was that band. And Tris really annoyed everyone by wearing gloves when he played the bass.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. I do remember that.
No, he annoyed Bobby Dazzler, didn't he? Like, he kept insisting on wearing his hilarious gloves whenever he played the bass. And it used to really annoy Bobby Dazzler. So Tris kept doing it. So despite that very large rambling of hilarious memories we just mentioned there, we would hope that answers Mr. Rancid Ring Flash 69's original question of who did we share a stage with.
Yeah.
We're trying to remember the local bands and some bands that we hold dear in our memories. But in all honesty, there's too many to mention, isn't there, Horace?
There is too many, yeah. I do have a list of all the bands that we played with, but I'm not going to read them all out. But I'm just having a quick look back up and down it now. And yeah, there are quite a lot, yeah.
How many are there?
Well, if I've got them all written down correctly, then I think we nearly reached 100 shows. We played about 90 shows, if I remember right, if this list is correct. But I think there's a few missing, but these are the only ones that I can remember. There's 90 shows. So there's about, well, there's got to be about 120 bands that I think we played with all in.
Amazing. There you go.
And I can remember quite a lot of them.
Yeah, impossible to list. I had a gig diary thing somewhere, but it was on a hard drive on an old computer that I lost somewhere down the road. So I don't have my list anymore, which is a real shame.
Yeah.
Maybe it is on a floppy disk somewhere. But how do you read a floppy disk these days? Maybe someone could message and let me know.
If anyone's got a floppy disk machine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, there we go.
Wow, great memories. You've been listening to Backstage Pass with myself, James Maverick, and Rob Newson, a.k.a. Roger the Horace. If you want to get in touch with us, Lemons, or ask us a question to discuss on the show, please do get in touch via Instagram by using our handle, which is @BSPpod, or by sending us a direct email to bsppod@protonmail.com. This podcast is brought to you by Maverick Audio and produced by me. If you'd like your podcast or any other production produced, then visit my website at www.maverickaudio.co.uk and message me via the contact form. Thanks so much for listening. Remember to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Until the next time.
Yeah, bye!
Whatever.